A note. Following advice from work-life imbalance may lead to action being taken by HR, your family, the authorities, or higher powers. Welcome to Work-Life Imbalance, an advice show focusing on workplace and lifestyle issues. Any resemblance to actual advice, living or dead, or actual wisdom is purely coincidental. I'm your monstrous manager, Frank Eastman.
And I'm your lovable office companion, Derek Lewis.
Today, we'll be talking about organization red flags in the deep dive before we address some audience questions and issues from the internet. But first, time for the daily stand-up.
Nice. What you got for me, Frank?
All right,
Hit me.
Hey! So what we've got, and going into the music, is appropriate here. So there's a new thing on Netflix, and I'm sure you've probably seen it.
Okay, put me on the spot.
Can you guess what it might be?
Give me some vague hint, other than just music.
Other than music, Japanese. All right.
I know they put. I mean, I am kind of up to date on some of the Japanese Netflix shows. I know they put the Love Bus up there. I can't think of anything Japanese music related. All right, you're gonna have to spill the beans. What am I missing?
You have not seen, I assume, Agretsuko.
Oh yes, I have seen Agretsuko.
Okay.
Yeah. You should have said metal.
Metal.
I think metal would have been more on the nose. But no, yeah, I have seen Agretsuko. Jessica has watched like all the episodes. I've watched like 6 or something.
Okay, I'm only up to 5 because I'm trying to space it out just a little bit.
But I love Agretsuko.
So here's a question that I have about it before we start getting into it at all. In the immortal and continuing fight of subs versus dubs, what does it mean if the show is made by an English company in both languages simultaneously?
At that point, I don't think that you can necessarily say like subs versus dubs. One is the clear winner. In normal like Japanese shows, subs I feel is superior just because it kind of sticks with the original intent of the show, and typically the voice actors are a little bit better. There are some rare exceptions. Like I think that the original voices for Dragon Ball Z were just batshit crazy. Like there is no excuse for some of the voices they chose for some of the original character actors, or some of the original characters for Dragon Ball Z. But by and large, like the Japanese voices are better, and plus, like they're so much more animated and things like that. And whenever you say that kind of shit in English, it just sounds so fucking weird. Like they're really like just really angsty roars and stuff. Just sounds so odd in English. And maybe to Japanese folks, it sounds that way to them. Like to us, it just sounds like guttural screaming. But no, back to the original question. I think that with this one, you can probably feel free to pick the one you like the most. Personally, I watched it in Japanese with English subtitles, but that's not to say that the English voices are bad. It's just I kind of tend to pick the one that I listen to first. That's kind of the one that I associate with it, and then anything else is weird. So that's kind of my damage on that one.
So the weird thing about this one is, like, I assumed that it was because Netflix will be like, oh, Netflix original, when they release in America a show that was from somewhere else. Right. And, they'll just put like a new title card in front of it saying that it's Netflix. Right. And so I assumed they had done that with this one because it was, it popped up and it's like, you should watch this. but then it launched directly into Japanese
Right.
with
Yeah.
subtitles. And so that was my assumption. I was like, obviously this is a Japanese show, but they've got first American release rights or
Yeah, they
something.
repurposed another
So
one.
that's why it's a
Yeah.
Netflix. But I went to look at it, and actually, this was made by Netflix, and it seems to have been made simultaneously in English and Japanese. But it seems that, in English-speaking countries, it defaults to Japanese.
Huh. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely odd.
I didn't even know it. I didn't know it had an English until I was poking around and looking,
Yeah.
and I noticed that there were two actors.
For Agretzico and some of the other voices and whatnot.
Yeah, and so I was like, an English version? Where the fuck would I find an English version? And so I went and looked, and if you're in Netflix and you just swap the language over to English, it's completely done in English.
Yeah, I did not realize that it was done like intentionally simultaneously. So I guess I kind of just did what I normally do and just kind of ignore the fact that something has English dubbed voices, because I find them overall just not as great in my opinion. So I just kind of like didn't even think about it, but I may have to go back and give it another listen, because that would be interesting to to hear it again with actual people that they intended the characters to be as well. I mean, I guess really at the end of the day, it's just a kind of a simulcast dub that's done very quickly or done before release. So I mean, I guess it's not
Right.
overall that much different, but I guess if it's with the original intent of doing both, that's cool. I can definitely respect that. I'll still watch the sub version probably, but I'll at least look at the dub version.
I watched a few minutes in English, and I don't know that it is it a dub would be my question. Like, there's subs and dubs, but is it dubbed if it was made in English originally, just simultaneously to the Japanese version?
I mean, my instinct is that that's a silly question, but it's really not. Like you're right on the money. The question is, what what are the character mouths saying? Like, are they matching up with the English words or the Japanese words? I believe they're matching up with the Japanese words. In that case, that would classify it as a dub. Now, if they are the English voices, then or the English mouth movements, then it would not be a dub. It'd be the Japanese version would be a dub.
Okay, I would agree with you on that one. I didn't watch it long enough to see, but of course, logically, they would have to be syncing the animation to one or the other language.
Right. Now, if they did both, like if they actually animated the mouths and shit twice, like
that would be buck wild.
That would be fucking bonkers. Like I would have so much respect. Maybe not even respect, just like in awe that somebody in a position of financial power would choose to do twice the work when it wasn't necessary.
I might have to go back and really give it a look. I didn't watch it in English. I just went, oh shit, you can literally just switch it over to English, and then I watch it for a couple minutes.
Right.
But specific to this one, watching it in Japanese with subtitles is helpful, because I'm getting the death metal.
Uh-huh.
But since I'm getting text, I know what the fuck she's screaming.
Right, yeah.
I tried it in English.
It's the exact same.
Well, you can't tell.
Right.
It's ever so, like, I mean, they're obviously doing the death metal in English.
Right.
It's just, it's so stylized, the scream
Right.
is so stylized that I can't fucking make out the words. I'm just
Right.
like, I know that she's screaming about, I think, getting up in the morning here. I don't know.
You're exactly right, because one of the things that Jessica did show me was the fact that that the screams in both the Japanese version and the English version are completely incomprehensible. And I love metal. I listen to a decent amount, maybe not as much as I did several years ago, but I still mix in a lot of like melodic hardcore and post-hardcore and things like that. Things that have a lot of screaming and things like that. And it takes somebody listening to that type of music a good bit before you can really kind of pick up on words inside the screaming. Like it is a skill that kind of has to be honed, however uselessly, over time. But yeah, even listening to that in the English version, I was like, I can hear nothing. Like there's this weird version of the scream. Like there's like the high pitched scream, then there's like kind of like the middle like kind of scream, and then there's this. This sounds like you are just putting a microphone up to like a wood chipper. Like it really is just like the lowest, least like a language screaming you can possibly imagine. So yeah, that my experience and expertise listening to hardcore music did not help me at all.
Now, looking at the billing, there's a voice actress for each of them in the language, like English and Japanese.
Right.
But then there's a voice actress for the death metal portions of the proceedings that's different for both the Japanese and the English. I'm assuming because, they're two relatively different skill sets.
Absolutely.
But
there's even an episode where I don't want to spoil anything, but essentially Agretsuko is like showing somebody else, like somebody else figures her out, and she's showing them her karaoke, and
yes,
eventually she kind of like they're like curious how she does it, so she kind of like tries to like teach them how to do the scream, and and so I was thinking about it. I was like, it's like, man, it makes so much sense why there's a separate person for the scream as for the a different person for the scream than for the regular voice acting, because no fucking respectable voice actor is going to try to teach themselves how to scream and then do it enough to record any length of time for fear of damaging their voice. Because if you do screaming, unless you do it exactly right, like you are gonna fuck up your vocal cords. So
yeah,
that is something that a normal, respectable voice actor, like it's like me, I'm a software engineer, but I want to really really get into like that little finger game where you put the knife between your finger and you do it really fast. Like it's like that's my passion, but I need my fingers to work. I'm not gonna go into the pro circuit. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the pro circuit of finger stabbies if I need my fingers to work.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I do know that there are voice coaches for metal singers specifically that will teach them how to do the scream without blowing out their vocal cords.
Yeah, and this is telling a little bit about me that I wasn't necessarily prepared to do tonight. But there was a time when I wanted to be in a metal band. Like I wanted, there was a decent time where,
Go on.
Like the metal scene around like Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, was actually okay. It still wasn't, necessarily fully formed, but it was actually pretty decent. There were a lot of, really good bands like, Dead Man in Reno and, Gideon's still around, and they're still touring and doing a really good job. Maylene and the Sons of Disaster came out of this area. So I mean, there are several bands that actually went on to do really good things. And so during that time, I was into music. I wasn't fantastic. I didn't have a whole lot of people around me, but I really wanted to learn how to scream. And so I looked this up, and so I didn't really have the financial means to go to a coach. So I kind of looked up like the early budding days of YouTube and looked up like, how to scream and do that kind of stuff. Jesus Christ. Oh, people in traffic probably thought I was just like a fucking madman because I couldn't do it. I couldn't try it at work. I couldn't try it at home because I lived in a fucking apartment. So, like, the only time I could do it was in my car. And so I was just stuck in the middle of traffic, just going...
See, we have a lack of closed booth karaoke halls.
We absolutely
in America.
Do. I mean, I know this is for the giggles, but we do. Like, why the fuck don't we have, like, some sort of soundproof place where people can go and just, like Fuck, just yell at people on the phone or do karaoke or whatever. Like, I did not realize that was a resource we were lacking, but we are.
I mean, they've got it in Japan. There's a little red panda, and every day after work, she can go and scream her heart out in a little karaoke booth.
I'm also pretty surprised that in that show, like sometimes she goes to like the bathroom stall and does it.
Oh yeah, that is
What
beautiful.
kind of fucking soundproofing do they have in the bathroom where she can go in there and scream her brains out and like the whole building doesn't see?
I do know that Japanese bathrooms, they're kind of sensitive to sounds, and often they have some sort of soundscape going on, like. But I'm talking like beautiful, babbling brook or rainfall or some shit, so that nobody has to hear you taking a leak in the next stall. I don't think that's going to necessarily cover up death metal.
It's not like a CD that has nothing but like the sounds of heavy duty machinery. Like that's the only thing that can cover up that noise. Oh God.
Want to take the deep dive?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so today in the deep dive, we want to discuss organizational or company red flags, the little hints or clues that maybe all is not what it seems at your job or the company you are interviewing with. I think that I have a little bit more perspective on red flags with the company that you're interviewing with, but Frank, what are some really big red flags? Just things that somebody could watch out for in their current job that might spell bigger trouble than they know about.
Let's see. From my experience, if sales guys are in any way, shape, or form involved directly with software engineers, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, because their interests are completely, or not completely, but 90% opposite of what software is. Software is to create the best product, the most efficient product, the product that's going to be most maintainable, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the ad guys just want to do the last person that called them and yelled the loudest. That's what they want the software to do.
Yes. I mean, a sales guy's job is to cultivate a relationship with a client, and generally the way that you can most quickly cultivate that relationship is just to do whatever they say as quickly as they say it. Also, there's perverse incentive with most structures in terms of sales.
Right.
So, like, usually your sales guy is going to get their cut off the gross.
Right.
So it's what I usually say. They get their percentage at the top line, while the project lives or dies at the bottom line.
Right.
So they are actually generally very often incentivized to sell shit at a level that just is not in any way reasonable for the company itself to perform at.
Right.
So they'll sell a $60,000 job for $30,000 because they still get their cut at the $30,000, but then they don't have to stick around for when all the software developers are left holding the bag at the end of a $60,000 project.
Right, and I think
that
that's
the company
kind of
just lost 30 on.
Yeah, that's kind of the takeaway of that is that essentially the reason that people care not only should they care because it might negatively affect their job quality if they're always just rushing as fast as possible to get stuff done for little to no money. But once enough of that happens, eventually you may be out of a job. Like you may be unemployed, and those bad decisions led to that. So looking out for that early could help. Maybe if you can't fix it, at least you can have a secondary escape pod to kind of jettison out to when things hit the fan.
If any C or senior level executive type holds a meeting in which they present bad news, but then temper it by saying they do not expect any layoffs, that means that there will be layoffs.
Yes. And if you had asked me that maybe a couple years ago, I probably would have been like, no, it doesn't always mean that. Yeah, with like 100% accuracy, that means that that they have discussed layoffs, and it's the answer that they came to was not this quarter. So that does not mean next quarter the heads will not roll.
Well, they've discussed layoffs. They're afraid people have heard there might be layoffs.
Right.
And so what they're doing is they're trying to salt things a little bit, hedge, get out in front of it, so that they don't have, a bunch of people leaving all of a sudden preemptively before they're ready for the layoffs.
Right.
If a company has a lot of really fun, nifty, unexpected things in the office, like beer, really good free food selection, on-premises laundry services.
Yeah,
Those
I
little
think, yeah, this is kind of a callback to I think it was our first episode where essentially we kind of laid out laid the groundwork for if you don't want your employees to leave the building, then you just give them all these perks that basically mean free food, free drink, a place to nap, laundry service, anything like that you can think of, video games, TVs, stuff like that. You literally want them to camp out at the office. Like,
yeah. If they never leave, then they're working. Like,
right.
That's just how it is. If I can get someone to take a nap.
I mean, even if they fuck around like during the work hours occasionally, they're still going to be here at 10 p.m. They're going to finish their game of Halo, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I guess I should finish that task, and they'll be here. They'll never leave. One thing that I was thinking of is if your organization has a penchant for knee-jerk reactions, and this can be, I think I'm speaking, the majority of it is in relations to like really important decisions, like the company is going in this one direction, and all of a sudden they take just a hard left into this other thing, and then 6 months later they take a hard right into something else. That, to me, and from what I've discussed with some other folks, a lot of times that means that there's something really wrong at the top, from the top down,
Right.
or at the bottom line. There's something really wrong, and they are trying radical things to try and course correct. And if they don't do it fast enough, if they don't find the right path quickly enough, then that means somebody's probably losing a job.
Oh, yeah. And it's also often indicative of a power struggle between higher level executives.
Right.
So, like, the CTO thinks we should do one thing, and the COO thinks we should do something else. So they'll muster enough support for doing it one way for 3 to 9 months. But then, if it didn't immediately turn into we're all millionaires and we're retiring, then they'll be able to make an argument on the other side for, well, now we should reverse course and go do it the way that I said we should do it the whole time.
Right.
And generally what you will get is an argument between, like, the technical officer.
Right.
And, like, the financial CFO. The technical guy will want to do it one way that is new and possibly expensive and very in-depth.
Right.
While the financial guy is like, no, we should do this as bare bones as possible. And that will suck. So if your company has just suddenly taken a hard left into we're adopting a whole bunch of new technologies, we're adopting a whole bunch of new strategies, and we're going to onboard a whole bunch of people. Onboard a whole bunch of people is the major red flag.
Hold on to your butts.
Yeah, if it's a power struggle between the CTO and the CFO, when the CTO's magic bullet doesn't fix everything, then the CFO will get to take over. And generally, that's about the time when everybody starts getting laid off, and they start having those meetings where they're saying, we're not expecting any layoffs. Or, I know we just had a sudden and unannounced round of layoffs, but we're not expecting any more layoffs.
See, now if I had experienced this when I had first kind of gotten in the industry, I would have thought, oh yeah, they're embracing change. They're really trying to get up to date with cutting edge technologies, all that shit. now when it, I was about to say when or if, but when something like that happens, I'm typically kind of the guy that's kind of sitting in the corner, everybody else is celebrating, and they turn to me, it's like, Derek, aren't you happy about this? And I'm kind of sitting there, a little bit of a, grizzled look on my face, maybe some, my beard is growing long. It's like, oh, summer child, winter is coming. I'm prepared for the winter the winter that follows.
My bosses think that I am squirrely as hell because I'm constantly like, oop, something changed.
I don't like
Need to start polishing up that resume.
Yeah. All right, so I think we covered several of the the more depressing, I think we covered the depressing angle of like if you're already in a job and you see all these things happening. So folks out there, that if this is happening in your job, brush up on the resume. Maybe have that in your back pocket just in case. So the other side of the coin is red flags for when you are interviewing with a company, because whenever you go into an interview, it's there's two major things that happen. Like they're interviewing you to see whether or not you're a good candidate for the job, but you are also interviewing the company, the people you're going to be working with, to see whether or not you actually want to work there, because that is more important than you might think. Like you may think that they have all the cards, and in a lot of cases they have a majority of the cards, but it has to be someplace that you want to work. And it's just as important for you to evaluate that during that time. And some of these red flags, they can spell things that you do not want to see.
Oh yeah.
The one that's first and foremost for me that I have seen so many times, because it's not like I'm interviewing like every week or something like that, but I've job hopped a little bit, just trying to find a part of the industry that I really want to be in. And the one thing that I've seen that scares the shit out of me the most is when they start shit talking the person that left the position or that they fired. Oh my God, that is like that is an alarm going off in my head, because that means they have no respect for something. Like it is such a disrespectful thing. Like even if they left on bad terms, like you still have to have some decorum. You can't just shit talk the person. Frank, have you seen this and seen air raid sirens going off?
I've seen it before, and generally what it means is that management is emotional and not logical,
Right.
which doesn't necessarily bode well for an organization. You'll see it a lot in relatively small organizations where you definitely have sort of a personality following.
Right.
If you're being interviewed by the CEO of the organization and he is shit talking the last guy that was there.
Oh man.
Like,
oh baby.
that is a bad scene, man. You do not want to get involved with that.
I mean,
and it's the same as relationships. Like
Right.
if you are on a date with someone and what they're talking about is how absolutely terrible and shitty their last relationship was,
not a place you want to be. Just
No.
not. You pay the check. You go home. You get back on Tinder and swipe till you find something else like that. You go ahead and abandon that one. I think this probably exists somewhere, but they need to have a Tinder app for people finding jobs. Like, I'm sure that
there
exists.
is one in town. Actually, it's not necessarily Tinder, but you can see that it was inspired by.
Right. Because of all the like titty pics and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Unsolicited completely.
But Tinder, in as much as the basic methodology is like there's a job, and if you and the hiring manager both essentially swipe right, then you get connected. But until you swipe right, it won't connect you. So that I think the intent is to keep people from being found out when they're looking for a new position.
Right.
Especially in a relatively small market like the one we're in now, it can be very difficult, especially in certain aspects of the industry, to be able to look for a job without immediately getting narked out to the current company you're at.
I mean, I jumped to a job and like somebody that I had literally, been working with a week prior to me leaving, all of a sudden their resume comes across the recruiter's desk at the new place that I work, and they're like, "Hey, this guy from Company X is is applying." It's like, do you know him? I'm like, "Yeah, I know him," and this is interesting. Yeah, I'm not gonna be the guy that goes and narcs to, my previous job to tell him, hey, this guy's trying to leave. But that does leave me in a position to kind of sweep the leg if I really don't want to work with this guy. Like, maybe he was the guy that I was running away from.
And I mean, it's not a shady thing. I've done it before. Like, if someone asks me my honest opinion about somebody that I've worked with at a previous organization and they were a fucking nightmare,
yeah,
I'll just
it's
be
important
like,
to know.
nah, this guy was a fucking nightmare. Like, this person was not very good at what they are purporting to be good at. That is my, opinion. Take it or leave it.
Right. So another thing, and this one I think is kind of, it's kind of obvious once you say it out loud. If the company has very high turnover, chances are that is just an obvious red flag. The one that I think is the other one that really kind of I've had problems with in the past because I have not paid attention to this one and gotten bitten by it. They can't accurately describe the role. That one is terrible because it's a little bit less sinister, at the inception than shit talking the person. Because shit talking the person, if anybody's talking behind anybody's back, like just as a person, that's kind of a shitty thing to do. This one, you may not necessarily like sniff out why it's so bad until you get in the role, and all of a sudden you think, oh, by the time they hire me, they'll figure out the role. No, you are now just somebody's bitch. Like,
yes.
At best, you're just somebody's bitch. At worst, like, you're literally expected to do everything, and you're on the hook when something goes wrong. Like, you are an instant patsy day one.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's one that I've seen a lot when the job description is so vague that it's like, I might be developing software. I might be making coffee, and I can't really tell which by the job description. Yeah, that's definitely a red flag.
I might be cobbling new soles onto fancy Italian leather shoes, or I may be, in animal husbandry. Like, if you can't narrow it down to at least a certain field within a specialization, that's bad news. So run as quickly away from that as you can. See, now this is a problem. I think that we could probably go on for like an hour about red flags, but I think we do need to put a cap on it. Maybe we can do a part 2 because I think there's enough for another episode some other time. But I would say let's cut it off for now and let's take our trip to accounting.
All right, I'll see you down there.
All right.
What's up, Home Trees? It's me, Chris.
And Corey.
And Donnie.
From the More Gooder Than podcast. For each episode, the three of us pick a thematically similar movie.
Like Dances with Wolves, The Last Samurai, and Avatar.
Or Deep Impact, Armageddon, and Space Cowboys.
And then duke it out until one movie is crowned most goodest.
3 movies into, 1 movie leaves.
Ironically, Thunderdome was not the winner when we tackled the Mad Max trilogy.
You know why, right?
Yeah.
We don't need another hero!
Hey, where can people find More Gooder Than?
You can find us on Twitter at MGT Podcast, our website, mgtpodcast.com, and on Instagram and Facebook at More Gooder Than. We're in iTunes / Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, and any other podcatcher that you can think of. Remember, it's not just good, it's more gooder than.
I'm Megan.
I'm RJ.
And we host Oh No Lit Class, a comedy literature podcast that tells you all the strange and sexy facts you never knew about the books you had to read in school.
Every episode is a fun, foul-mouthed spark notes for your ears, filled with author bios, plot summaries, bad impressions, and Megan singing.
It's mostly you that sings.
No, I sing well. She sings poorly.
That's not true. So come listen to us ruin classic literature one book at a time at ohnoliclass.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh no, Lit Class. We're for kids.
No, we're not.
Welcome back, friend.
Oh,
How was your journey?
it was good. Except for the last moment. Like a genius, I decided to
I thought you
grab
meant,
a piece of...
I thought you meant me talking to you.
Oh, that was also
Way to
good.
turn bad.
No, I grabbed a piece of black licorice as I sat down, and I was like,
Why the
This was
fuck
a
would you do
mistake.
that?
I don't know.
Even if you weren't recording a podcast, why the fuck would you do that?
sometimes I'm a dum-dum, Derek. All right, Derek.
Got that question from the audience for me, Frank?
I do indeed. A guy at work is always on his phone laughing at memes. He is very young, like 21. I sometimes ask him what he is laughing at, and he always says something like, "You know that meme where?" And he explains a setup to a meme, laughing as if he knows the meme is so good, I should know it. But often, I do not know it. Where do I find meme news when I am old and out of touch? Sent in by Out of Touch in Opelika.
So I think we're in a very unique position here, Frank, because I feel like I typically, either through my own internet usage or Jessica being my aggregator for all things meme, I think I've got my finger on the pulse of most of the memes. You, on the other hand, do not strike me as somebody who is quite... well, I guess you are on Tumblr sometimes.
Oh, no, I'm not. I mean, I know of Tumblr.
You have referenced Tumblr, something you have found on Tumblr twice, Frank. So unless you're going to tell me you have a social media aggregator who is the proxy so that you yourself are not on Tumblr, I think you're already outed, my friend.
That is indeed what I'm going to tell you, Derek.
Okay.
Because
all right. I'll assume it's true.
I am too old for Tumblr.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I think all of us are far too old for Tumblr. But no, okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like Leet Meme Lord 9000, and 1 being, banging two rocks together, never seeing the internet. Where would you rate yourself on your knowledge of memeology?
I'll say, here's the question. Is it my native knowledge, or is it my knowledge that I glean from others?
I think it can be both. I think that the aggregation and social sharing that we get from other people that expose us to memes, I think that is a core part of kind of like the fabric of what makes up our mentality for memes. So I would say that counts.
So my native memeology is probably sitting around a 2.
Uh-huh.
But my complete memeology is probably more along the lines of a 7 or an 8.
Wow. You have a very highly skilled aggregator, if I have to say.
A native of the internet, if you will.
Yeah, I would rate mine. My native memeology is probably... I would probably say probably a 4 or 5. So, middling to fair overall. I'm not necessarily, I'm not making my own memes, so I can't really be at the front of the pack. But a good majority of the memes that come across the internet space, I am aware of. Now, my aggregate knowledge that crosses my friends, my wife, other folks around the office that also share the memes with me. That collaborative knowledge, I think I would put myself closer to a 7. I'm not going to say that collaborative knowledge makes me the meme lord 9000, but it's about 7 or 8. So okay, let's talk native native versus native, because I think that our collaborative knowledge is pretty similar. Native versus native. When you see somebody laughing at a meme that you don't understand, how does it make you feel?
When they're laughing at a meme that I don't understand, it makes me feel like I am, which is old and out of touch. Also slightly angry. Like I want to tell them to get off my lawn.
Okay, that was kind of along the answers I was expecting. I do feel myself kind of drifting into that from time to time, where I'm a nerd. I've always been steeped in nerd culture. I think I got a later start than some folks, because I was all about video games, but wasn't able to get into the larger geek culture until my mid-teens. But I've always kind of kept abreast of nerd culture and things like that. And even now, like with the whole Pokemon Go thing, like I started, as soon as Pokemon Go released, I played it, but pretty soon after, like it kind of got repetitive, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to go to the places where these good Pokemon are, so I'm just going to give it up. And it just kind of kept going, like
Yeah.
not the user base. Like I think it eventually quieted down quite a bit, but the people that kept playing were like talking a language that I didn't even understand. I was like, what the okay, if you can't describe what the fuck you're talking about in English, you're gonna have to stop talking to me. Like, I don't know, like what the fuck are you saying? So yeah, that I've had that happen a couple times. So I didn't expect it to happen so soon, because I'm only 32, and it's already happening.
We are consigned to the dustbin of history.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned as time goes on, because I've told myself time and time again that I'm not going to be one of those like 70-year-old guys that like didn't keep up with technology and things like that. But like, I'm struggling to think of like what else is going to come where when I'm going to cross the line and I'm going to say, this will be the hill that I die on. I will never have X gadget or something like that. Like what is it going to be where I truly cross the line from, tech savvy middle-ager to, old crotchety man who doesn't trust technology? What will it take?
I mean, I think I'm already there. And to answer the original question...
Oh, yeah, I forgot we were doing the question thing.
You've got to get someone that is in your life that is like a good decade or a decade and a half younger than you, and then just shamelessly crib notes. Like, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it.
I feel like they probably can't be your child. Like, I feel like it has to be somebody who is not necessarily related by blood, or that you don't like have a responsibility to correct behavior for. Because I feel like if they are your child, you have to tell them, don't I don't know. What the fuck do you say to your kids, Frank? I don't know what parents do.
As little as possible, generally. No, I try to keep them off of the internet as much as I can, because I know the internet is a terrible place.
I mean, just carte blanche, that is a wise move.
But yet they still somehow access it, and they generally are coming back with knowledge from the internet that I neither understand nor countenance.
It is too late, Father, for I have seen. But yeah, so in your life, you have somebody that kind of keeps you abreast of the comings and goings of the internet without having to actually experience it yourself.
To some extent, yeah. Or will at least bring me to bear witness to things. I think of it less as an aggregator and perhaps more as a filter.
Okay.
Like, I don't necessarily need to be hit with the constant stream of everything as it evolves on the internet.
Right.
But if I'm given snippets of things, then I can, at least have enough to keep a hand in. And so that I can get the references that are being slyly made by the youth at the job site. Because I have also, like the original question, ask her. I've got someone that I work with regularly who is like 21,
Yeah.
but he can't bust out memes that I don't know
Right.
because I know some of the memes, not all
he
of
has
the
to
memes.
he has to dig real deep in the meme barrel in order to pull out one that it comes completely out of left field.
Yeah, if I just breezily kind of swoop through and toss off a reference here or there, that at least leaves him with the assumption that I know much more about the memes than I do.
It's like in the wild, the older gorillas sometimes have to there has to be like a show of strength or something. Not that they could necessarily overpower some of the younger primates, but they have to kind of allude to the fact that they still have it in them. So in order to stop him from challenging you to a meme off, you have to kind of set the scene that you are all about the memes, as to not warrant him challenging you for control.
Exactly. I have to maintain dominance. One of the things that has begun to happen that is distressing to me is that things that I know are now starting to come up as deeply retro nostalgia fodder.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So, the advent of Vaporwave was a little disturbing to me.
Uh-huh.
In as much as I'm like, fuck, I know the song that this is.
Right. The reference material, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the reference material. You're taking something and utterly transforming it, but I was there for the original.
Right.
And I think that is not the intent here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to call back to it, in some fashion, but it's not really supposed to it's supposed to be the old stuff repackaged for the new kids. And when the old kids hear it, they're like, "What the fuck? That's just the same thing we always had, and now it's hot again? What the hell, man?"
You just took a cut from a Diana Ross song and slowed it way down. Huh.
Why didn't I think of that? If we'd have just okay, well, I was gonna say if we had kept the stuff from our childhood and then just kind of took it digitally and just kind of mashed it together, that would be something we can make money off of. The problem was that I grew up in the 90s, and goddamn if there was not a single thing worth taking out of the 90s. That, I mean, eventually some of the stuff will become cool again, but I don't think grunge is coming back.
It's already started to happen, man. Give it another 5 years and you'll be because I was kind of the same way with the 80s, some of the parts of the 80s that I did not expect to come back, I'm like, okay, I guess that's big again now.
So
sure.
So and you're exactly right. And after I made my previous statement, I realized my folly, because in the mid 90s, late 90s, and early 2000s, there was this movement called nu metal, NU-metal. Essentially, that covers the original Linkin Park, Mudvayne, Korn, some of those bands like that. And so there's a new cartoon called OKKO, and it's a great cartoon, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's by the person who did Rebecca Sugar, who does Steven Universe and started Adventure Time and stuff like that. It's her partner.
I love her work.
Yeah, and this is her partner. And I forget his name, and I feel so bad, but he's Ian something. He's fantastic, and so it's a cute little show about little budding superheroes, and it's so cute. But they had an episode that was completely devoted to this one villain who made constant nu metal references. And I was like, this is one of two things. This is either for the adults that are watching it with their children to say, "Oh yes, I remember that," or this is the first sign that it's going to come back. And yep. I just want to run out into the street with those crazy guys that are holding the end of the world is near signs, just hold up. It's Corn is not okay. Please don't bring this back. This deserves to die in the 90s.
Just let it go into the darkness. Don't bring it back.
Oh God, this is one Pandora's box we do not want to open.
I'm constantly hearing songs now that I'm like, shit, that's great. I don't remember that one. What is that from? And then come to find out it's like new wave.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit. People are waxing nostalgic about things that I remember when they came out, you know. Right.
Things that came out when I was sentient and, you know, was an actual person like that. Yeah, I feel like I'm safe from that. Like I feel like grunge and new metal is probably not going to come back in the same way that some of the retro wave is doing, but man, just catch me up in about 5 or 10 years and I'm eating my words, and that will be the day that my soul dies. Some things deserve to stay dead.
Want to hit an issue from the internet?
Yeah, we took that one down a weird tangent. All right. So for the issue for the internet is by Rendon9595KL. So
Rindo.
Yeah, my buddy Rindo. My boss, who is a female, is obsessed with getting all employees to pose in bikinis. But I'm a guy and won't do it. Now she wants to suspend me. What the hell? I work for a small firm with 16 people. Last night the boss told us she wants all employees, whether they're guys or gals, to pose in a Brazil flag bikini to celebrate the Olympics. Obviously the Rio Olympics. I work with 6 guys, 10 women in a small business in an office. I told her no, I'm a dude, but she was quite insistent about it, and she said, I've got to do this. I have to get us into the papers. I'm a guy. I'm a guy.
You don't understand. We need the viral content. This is for the clicks.
We need to go viral. I'm a guy, and a bikini would be quite awful on me. Even my girlfriend agrees on this. She said the boss has a fetish. Now she wants to suspend me unless I do it next week on Wednesday. I'm worried this will go viral. Am I wrong to be worried? And then they have a note that they're in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, there are labor law. I was like, if this is Brazil, I don't know what the labor laws are like in Brazil.
Yeah. Knowing that it's in the U.S., like this is puts a little bit different spin on it.
Yeah.
So the boss wants them all to pose in bikinis. They want to get it to go viral, and this guy is worried that it will. What? Okay. Wow. So Frank, what would you do in this situation?
Well, there's the what would I do, and there's the what would I suggest should or needs to happen.
Okay.
Because what would I do? I would have my reservations certainly and significantly, and then I would become a meme.
Right.
And I would get my 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes would be like, my God, check out this cropped picture of this monster wearing what looks like a Wookiee costume and a Speedo.
See, and I think the unfortunate part about this is that it's not like a choose your own Speedo type of thing. So you couldn't even wear your metal Speedo that you've had locked away in your closet waiting for the apocalypse.
Oh yeah, no,
it would have to be Brazil themed.
I would need the wax to go with it, I think, in order to make it in any way visible.
Oh God! Ow! Oh no, Frank, you did not have to specify. Jesus Christ.
But I think, like, you shouldn't have to do this, and I'm fairly certain that, legal precedent would be with you.
Oh, yeah.
If you were to fight that I got fired and or, some way, any kind of discipline. I was disciplined because I refused to take part in a photo shoot involving skimpy clothing.
Right.
Like-
From a legal standpoint, I don't think that there's anything to tell this guy, because if they even mention that to a lawyer, it's going to be like, yeah, you were wrongfully terminated. Yeah, we'll go get you some money. My thing is that I want to tell him what he should do is he should do it and just ride the wave of fame. Because if this was me, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm the most like body positive person in the world. I mean, I know that there are some things that even that are not scantily clad that I don't want to wear for fear of looking stupid. But I think this is the cause that I would lean into real hard. Because,
Oh yeah.
because if there's one thing that would go viral, just because of my bad luck, it would be me in 4 square inches of fabric, like that. It's not going to be the good work that I do. It's not going to be a funny joke that I say. It's going to be me in, the least amount of clothing that could be considered clothing, and posed in some paint me like one of your French girl poses.
I mean, to some extent, everybody has to put the work in. But on the other hand, like, you never know what you're going to necessarily get known for.
Right.
So I can see to some extent that this person might be wanting to protect their brand. Like,
And I get that.
You don't- yeah, you don't necessarily want to be known as the Speedo guy, if that is definitely going to be, like, against everything that you want to do with the rest of your life, like not be laughed at and or mocked on the internet for the next 10 years.
And it's not like we don't have examples of this already. Like, you had the Numa guy, you had the lightsaber kid. I mean, this is not without precedent. Like, this has happened multiple times before. The question is whether or not this person would be comfortable with going viral with his bikini pics. So I guess
a lot
that
of
is
people
the real
these
issue.
days are going ahead and leaning into it, and
Right.
not necessarily to the benefit of the planet. Like the meme with the such and such terrible statement, prove me wrong guy.
Right.
That guy is like a complete shitbag
Absolutely.
filmmaker who has been riding the fame generated by that meme
Mm-hmm.
to like amplify his
Shitbaggery.
message. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all like not good stuff. So I mean, it's for good or for ill.
Right.
But at the same time, I think, especially nowadays, I think you just got to kind of learn to lean into the opportunities as they present themselves. And yeah, I would definitely be like, well, I guess this is how it's going to go.
Make sure you get me at my good angles, because we're only gonna do this once.
Although sometimes these things, they don't go viral, and for that you're thankful.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere unreleased to the public and not on the internet are short snippets of me dancing in an ill-fitting fireman's outfit for an unreleased ad that never really got made, and that never saw the light of day, for which I am thankful, because I'm fairly certain that was of Jesus Christ, look at this quality.
So I'm not trying to comedically leave you out to dry here, Frank. I am just struggling to comprehend the string of sentences you just put together. You are telling me that somewhere there exists a video of you in some sort of stripper fireman's outfit dancing around to some campy music. Or in the worst case scenario, they hadn't added the music yet, And so it's
Oh
you
yeah, I
just
think
dancing
the
around.
music wasn't there
in
yet because it
silence.
wasn't. This was never a completed video. This was like an initial shoot for an ad that never got made.
So is this like a motion only thing where like you're just like dancing around happily in silence as onlookers are horrified? What?
I mean, you don't want to see behind the curtain how things are made, Derek. It's not pretty at the best of times, and it is definitely not pretty when it involves me.
So I'm not going to ask you to okay, no. I'll ask you off
I
camera.
couldn't produce this if I wanted to. Like,
Okay.
I'm fairly
all right.
certain it has been erased from existence. That's why I said sometimes you luck out. Sometimes this shit doesn't actually get into the public eye. Like, I saw it, and I was like, oh shit, please just let that not get out onto the internet somewhere.
I'm still struggling to come to terms with what I'm visualizing, Frank. I'm not saying that seeing it would make it go away. It's not like if you've got a song stuck in your head, like go listen to the song so it gets out of your head. I'm just saying that like this is something that may haunt me till I die. At some point 10 years down the road, you may have like some like private eye, like sniffing around your garbage, ruffling through your receipts that you left out on the kitchen table, and you'll find him, you'll corner him, you'll ask who hired you. It obviously will be me, and his sole purpose,
will be to try and find the fireman video.
yes. I'm not going to tell you when, but it may happen.
Oh, Derek, just believe me when I tell you that it doesn't actually exist anymore. It was ephemeral in nature.
That's for the PI to decide. All right. I think that's about the best thing we can punch the clock on. All right. So I want to take a moment and let you guys know how much we appreciate each and every question you send in. It's part of the lifeblood of our show, and without those questions, our show just wouldn't be the same. So please keep them coming. You can send them to questions@WLIcast.com, shoot them to us on Twitter @WLImbalance, or go to WLIcast.com and click Ask a Question. If you find any funny issues from the internet you'd like for us to read on the air, send them to us as well, and we'll make sure to thank you on air.
This has been the Work-Life Imbalance Podcast. I'm Frank Eastman.
And I'm Derek Lewis.
And with that, I think we're going to have to transfer you.
You think I'm kidding about that? You think I'm kidding about that private eye thing? That PI he's gonna have his fancy hat. He may even have a nice trench coat.